Pepto-Bismol. That's all you need. This is your brain. This is drugs. There are perhaps... Stop. I forgot my number.
Hey, the light's still on.
There are perhaps 2 million Kurds in these mountains, freezing, without food or clothing. There's an average of 20 babies die a night, and the number is rapidly rising. Is it too late for the Americans to help? This is Aaron Dunn reporting from northern Iraq.
It is off. No, the fucker won't go off. I don't have my hand on there.
Push it again. Bush's Gulf War tactics have worked in reverse. Saddam Hussein has actually gained power since the end of the Gulf War. Plus, intelligence shows that Saddam and his army is regrouping and rebuilding everything that was lost. This leaves the White House hoping that the country's economy will collapse, hopefully taking Saddam with it. But the immediate problem for Bush is the 2 million people in these mountains that are cold starving and need immediate attention. Bush, in his attempt to fend off the charges that his administration seduced the Kurds into rebellion, has started a massive open-ended relief program stretching the full length of Iraq. This operation has become known as Operation Provide Comfort. Since Turkey and Iran are beginning to refuse to take any more refugees, Bush has to protect the mountains. Therefore, Bush has drawn a line along the 36th parallel in which and has declared this area off limits to Saddam. If Saddam enters this area, he will have to pay for his actions. This isn't enough though. Water at these camps is in such short demand that little boys have to climb the steep ridges just to grab bags of snow to bring down for water. Plus people gulp the snow up without even having it melt first, so they can get their nourishment. Plus, the only aid reaching these camps is food, and this is not getting properly distributed. The food is simply thrown off the food trucks, and most of it is gobbled up by the stronger, more powerful refugees, while the other weak ones don't get anything. Plus, there is many refugees being killed by cans coming off. One girl was hit in the head and her head was split wide open by a can. Plus, the airlift has been working well, but not very well. There's a few crates that have fallen on people and absolutely crushed them. So, Bush has done everything he says so far, except taking over Iraq. But he plans on a second phase. He's gathered engineers, and by the end of the month they hope to have built forward supply bases which will supply some 700,000 refugees with shelter, medical care, and food. Bush claims that the Americans are doing everything short of taking over the entire country of Iraq. But this is not the extent of Bush's problems. Bush has pulled nearly all the American troops out of the south, and the Shiites are getting worried that Saddam's power will take over their southern area as well as the northern area. The Shiites are practically begging the U.S. troops to stay. They are totally scared. Bush, however, doesn't seem to be losing any sleep over this whole problem. He's going ahead with his plan, pulling out the troops, and he's going to let the Shiites fend for themselves to see how they do. The Shiites in the south scare Bush because they support Iran, and Bush has problems with Iran. And so he's going to go ahead and pull his troops out and let the Shiites fend for themselves. He's going to keep his northern policy the same so far, he says. This is Aaron Dunn reporting from northern Iraq.
Edition of the Evening News. I'm Lisa Riopel. Welcome to the 6 o'clock edition of the Evening News. I'm Lisa Riopel. Aaron Dunn is in the mountains of northern Iraq reporting on the Kurds. have the full report from Iraq in a few moments. In national news tonight, President Bush is calling for educational reform across the nation. His vow to be the education president is finally taking some action. Bush is proposing for parents to become active in the educational process. A cornerstone of his program is to expand national testing and to challenge private industries to fund a national competition to reinvent the American schools. But these goals cannot be reality because the president won't put any significant amount of federal money into the schools. While Bush is planning, the rest of the nation is putting educational reforms into effect. Communities in Colorado, Milwaukee, Baltimore, Chicago, and the Bronx have already set up programs with new ideas to help the students in their areas. Bush has promised to spark a nationwide movement that touches every school and every student in America. So far, he hasn't delivered. In other news, Kenneth Reiskamp was rejected by the Senate Judiciary Committee as an appeals court judge. President Bush nominated Reiskamp last year. This rejection is the first by the committee since 1988. The media circus is continuing around the accusations and threats involved around the rape scandal at the Kennedy Mansion in Palm Beach, Florida. The Palm Beach police have released their initial report, most of which had already gone public. 30-year-old William Kennedy Smith, nephew of Senator Ted Kennedy, is the accused rapist. Newsweek magazine is calling the scandal one of the sleaziest legal fights in recent memory. And now, we'll go live to northern Iraq, where news reporter Aaron Dunn is live with the story of the Kurdish refugees.
Hi, this is Willard Snott. Reporting live from Fort Hays, Kansas. According to the weather, you can see it's kind of windy out here today. Kind of cloudy up there. With rain around us. Rain all the way around us, except for here. There's a lot of storms, hail involved, maybe a few tornadoes here and there. Who cares? Now, that was your weather forecast for today. And before I forget, today is Jody Leland's birthday. She's 103. Happy birthday, Jody! Now, shh, very quiet. I need ducks today.
This is Lloyd with the Business Report. Just recently, Fred Carr's insurance empire was turned upside down as California officials took control of Executive Life Insurance Company. The failure is the largest in U.S. history and could leave hundreds of thousands of customers with losses. Its parent, First Executive, says that its bond investment portfolio carried on at book value $9.9 billion. It was only worth $6.8 billion by the end of 1990. Whatever the firm's true condition, the insurers lack the assets to make good on all of its promises to 170,000 life insurance customers, 75,000 annuity holders, and an unknown number of pension plan members whose money is invested. As interest rates topped 15% in the early 1980s, wealthy investors lined up to buy. Few knew that only high returns on Executive Life's junk bonds stood behind the promises. By 1983, First Executive had become the nation's largest seller of those annuities and a big player in guaranteed investment contracts, which let pension funds lack in high rates. The final blow came in early 1990 when New York and California clamped down on transactions among First Executive subsidiaries. Thousands of customers cashed in their policies and annuities, forcing the companies to sell their bonds at a loss. In March, First Executive's auditors expressed its doubt that the company could stay in business. Executive Life of New York remains in operation, although state officials could take control at any time. The people with conventional life policies should come out fine. Those who hold annuities will probably get their principal back, but with a fraction of promised interest. Those whose pension plans entrusted their money to First Executive will suffer. And that is the Business Report.
This is Jiffy Jeff, and I'm the greatest heavyweight boxer in the world. This is what's the name of this product again?
Moldy jacket spray.
Yeah. Moldy jacket spray, because when you're in the ring, you want to smell good and have get rid of that jacket, because you can't have your guard down, you know. Ooh, I got it in. You see?
Hello, we're back with the international news concerning the Soviet Union and their president. The Soviet leader, Mikhail Gorbachev, is in a power struggle against centralized control. Last week, 100,000 people took to the streets of the capital of Belarus to protest government price hikes and demanding Gorbachev's resignation. Gorbachev declared a state of crisis and set up a nationwide ban on strikes and protest rallies. These bans are not the only crackdown Gorbachev has initiated. In January, Gorbachev used the KGB and the army with tanks to put down a revolt that killed 14 people. The emergency measures are buying time for the president, yet the people are not paying any attention. 100,000 Muscovites ignored these emergency measures and rallied in the capital last month. And since March, 300,000 coal miners have been on strike, refusing a double in salary and wanting Gorbachev's resignation. The miners vow they will continue this economic strike until the president resigns. The government is afraid that strikes like this will spread through the industrial community. If this does happen, the government said that they will extend the state of emergency using the KGB and the army in a more strict basis, which will break up the rallies. If Gorbachev uses these forces, his reputation will be ruined, not only at home but worldwide. Nations like Japan and Korea were supposed to make some future investments in the Soviet Union, but with all this happening at the same time, Japan and other nations are afraid to participate in any business with the Soviets. Gorbachev is a smart president. He has always had one thing going for him, and that's his foreign policy. If he's not careful, Gorbachev will lose everything he has accomplished. One bit of information that I might have left out is that Gorbachev is not only against the public, he is also against the political powers that contend with him. For example, conservatives of Congress were collecting names for Gorbachev's resignation until Gorbachev talked with them, and they finally dropped the petition. Gorbachev has a lot of decisions to make. Those decisions will make a great effect on the future of the Soviet Union. And this is Adam Dunn reporting on the Soviet Union. And now we have Sean Hartley with the report over lifestyles.
Thank you, Adam.
You're not welcome.
Earlier this year, a 24-year-old Hugo, Minnesota woman, Peggy Herzog, was accused of third-degree assault of injecting her 2-year-old son, Michael, with sodium chloride. When Michael was admitted to the Children's Hospital of St. Paul, doctors were suspicious of infected puncture marks of the thigh. When the police searched in the Herzog home, they found syringes and plastic tubes containing sodium chloride solution. She is said to plead not guilty in court when her case is to be heard. Her son, now in a foster home, has been healthy ever since he left her care. Doctors claim Peggy Herzog suffers from Munchausen syndrome by proxy, MSPB, a mental illness in which parents hurt their children in order to gain sympathy or attention. MSPB was first described in the medical literature in 1977. Children that suffer as a result of this usually die. 9% of them die. MSPB accounts for fewer than 1,000 of the more than 2.5 million cases of child abuse in America, though. The only cure for this disease is to keep their eyes open and to reach out for a child in trouble. I'm Sean Hartley with The Lifestyle, and I am out of here.
Hi, this is Denise Long reporting on the unauthorized biography of Nancy Reagan. Kitty Kelly, whose poisonous pen trashes Nancy Reagan in a book that sets off an uncivil war, was brought up in Spokane, Washington. Kitty Kelly was the oldest of 7 children. When she was in high school, she was a bubbly, popular girl and a cheerleader. She spent almost 4 years working for Senator Eugene McCarthy after college. After those 4 years, Kelly was a researcher at the Washington Post for 2 years before being asked to resign. Kitty's knife job on Nancy Reagan is, by some estimates, the fastest-selling book in American history. There were more than 600,000 copies in its first printing. Despite repeated criticisms about the accuracy of the book, Kelly has repeatedly described her critique of Nancy Reagan as balanced. Nancy is depicted as being cruel, cheap, temperamental, pushy, manipulative, and cold in Kelly's book. The Reagans, trying to avoid dignifying the book, used one of their increasingly frequent visits to church as a setting to dismiss the book out of hand. Also, Nancy has urged her allies to come forward to defend her honor, her humanity, and her chastity. Joe Kanzier, a former White House aide, challenged Kelly's most sensational piece of innuendo, that Nancy and Frank Sinatra had sex in the White House. And in response to Kelly's accusation of the Bloomingdales holding a pot party for the Reagans in the 60s, Betsy Bloomingdale laughs at the thought. Stuart Spencer, a Reagan advisor, said, "This book belongs with the tabloids." Despite Kelly's wretched excesses, she has the core of the story right. The problem with Kelly's book is her accounts are a mishmash. Something old, something new, something borrowed, something true. Mostly Kelly collates and embellishes the dozens of stray rumors of anti-Reagan stories that have floated around for years. At the front of the book, Kelly thanks scores of people, including some who never talked to her, spoke only to decline to be interviewed, or explicitly asked that their cooperation not be acknowledged. In this book, Kelly rarely seems to take reliability into account. Because of all the sensationalism, Kitty Kelly's book has created more people. Because of all the sensationalism Kelly's book has created, more people may be encouraged to explore the real history of the Reagan era.
Tonight we have a special interview straight from the White House with the President of the United States, Mr. George Bush. Welcome, Mr. Bush.
Hello.
Mr. Bush, how do you plan on handling the Kurds?
Well, old Barb told me to put old Scarecrow out in the front yard, scare them nasty old birds away.
No, Mr. Bush. The Kurds. You know, the Kurds in northern Iraq.
Oh, them fellers. Well, I think I'll keep up the support over there and keep the troops and just help out over there with the food and keep the troops over there.
What about if Saddam Hussein crosses the 36th parallel? What then?
Well, then we'll just have to take him out. He knows better than to do that. I set that rule up, you know, and that wouldn't be prudent in this juncture.
All right, Mr. President, do you plan on keeping troops in southern Iraq?
Well, I gotta tell you, I'm not gonna do it. Not gonna do it. Wouldn't be prudent. I'm gonna pull them boys out and get them back home where they're supposed to be.
What about Norman Schwarzkopf? What do you think of the job he did?
Well, old Storm and Norn, you know, the big bear, he just did a great job. And them troops over there, they just did a heck of a job, you know, and they went in and took them out and came right back home, and that's where they're gonna be.
Okay, Mr. Bush, how do you feel about the situation in the Soviet Union? Exactly what is your position?
Well, old Gorby over there, he's in a tough problem, you know. So, he's doing a pretty good job, but he does need a little help now and then. And so I'm just going to stay the course, and hopefully we'll get the new 7th meeting set up.
All right, Mr. Bush, a final question. Are you going to run for president in 1992?
Well, that's a pretty funny question. Well, my advisors tell me that due to this war problem that I got some pretty good ratings, and I guess I'll go ahead and run for president. I think I can win, but who knows?
Well, thank you, Mr. Bush.
Oh, sure, anytime.
That's all for the evening news. Thanks for watching. Good night.